Hello and welcome to Spooning with me, Mark Wogan. Each week I'm joined by a very special guest and I challenge the food that they think they love and the food that they think they hate. Difference is, they eat it with a blindfold. Now, who is this week's guest? Well, we are at Home Slice in City, and this man can eat. I mean, many would say he has to maintain the extraordinary physique. He is what some people would describe as a unit, but he is a rugby star at international level. He's then gone on to be a DJ. He toyed with the idea of being an MMA fighter, and he's also a successful podcaster. Will you please welcome the very present James Haskell?
Oh, hey, mate.
All right, man.
Most people say meathead.
Meathead.
Unit, but I take it, it's more as a derogatory comment. I do look like a knuckle dragger, but actually, hopefully, I will dispel some of that on this wonderful podcast.
Well, I mean, that's the interesting thing about you, is a lot of people, you're one of those people that everybody has a preconception about until they meet you.
And then it's either reaffirmed or
exactly. You go, thank you for that.
He is exactly what I thought he was going to be. But it's really weird because, I know we'll come on to some of the stuff, but it's one of those things where we did an interview the other day to promote the GBR Unleashed book, and the journalist, and when I read it, it was kind of looking at every other interview that's been done, it was sort of, here's a preconception, you come across a bit of a dick, people think you're a dick, you're actually not a dick, and it's sort of quite tried and tested now, and it's like, listen, at some point, you've got to go, look, either we like this guy or we don't like this guy, he is what he is, and I think...
But I mean, given your size, nobody was going to tell you they thought you were a dick.
I think some people do it as a flyby out of a window driving past. You go. So yeah, I think for me it's in life where you've got a few juxtapositions within some person. If you're relatively articulate, or you have certain skills, or there's a preconception, you dispel that, or your social media persona looks in a certain way, or you do certain things like, a lot of naked calendars we did when I lived in Stade Francais in Paris, the Jour de Stade, or Gay Times at Attitude, or you're confidently talking about stuff, it incites a bit of an upset in people because you don't conform. People in this country like their sports people to be humble, quiet, interesting, but also not too out of the box. And because in America they champion that. They want people with characters. Here we like a bit of character, but if they get too big, we want to have a fall, and we like to build them up again, and then we like to stab them again.
But there is also the preconception about people who play rugby. You assume it's like...
Why it is because of... It's actually...
Well, is it Bill Beaumont?
Bill Beaumont, yeah, Big Bill. But he's got the biggest arse I've ever seen, Big Bill. It's sort of got its own gravitational pull. He's obviously a legend. I got to say it to him now because I don't think he could catch me, but my arthritis in my ankle might mean that he could do. Because he's got massive shovel hands, but Big Bill's bum, it's like a beanbag. It's sort of
Who'd have thought we'd end up talking about Bill Beaumont's bum?
I think the interesting story I was going to say about the stuff about the rugby stuff is actually a lot of people's experience of rugby players is university, and it's a completely different world. I never went to university. I never did all those initiations. I never did all the mad drinking or the shaving their heads or the drinking through jock straps, all this other kind of stuff. So
no, you did that as a professional.
I did that, yeah. I got paid to do that. But university, that's where you go. Because people always go, oh, rugby player.
Ruggabug.
Yes. But I never had that. So I have to sort of go into rooms and go, do you know what? We didn't drink all the time. Like for 6 years of my career, I didn't drink at all. We didn't do any of those initiations. We had some stuff, but it was never like that. I would never drink a pint of Zomit or whatever else they were doing, or it just wasn't what we did.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is that the majority of those players who achieve your status, maybe potentially unlike Premiership footballers, are quite bright, have careers, are professionals, go on to be quite successful. But the assumption is you're a meathead.
Yeah, of course. And I quite like that. I quite like that because I think as well, one of the things that I've downloaded this book out called Headway, actually. It basically summarises lots of different books. And I love listening to fiction. I can't read self-help books. But I sort of got inspired to kind of listen to these sort of 15-minute segments. And one of the things is the 48 laws they talk about. And one of them is kind of let people assume what they want about you, because you become much more powerful when you act in a completely different way to that mindset. So I go into places, watch people's assumptions, and then you're able to go, actually, by acting this way, it's going to completely change their opinion. And I quite like it, especially now I'm dating and single. You kind of go, you see with girls like, you're exactly what I thought you're going to be, and you're like, well, actually, no, I'm not. And it kind of makes you more more palatable potentially.
But you have changed as a person over the years as well. I mean, you know, there was when, and you haven't lost elements of it, and it's obvious from the book and from the podcast as whatever. You do like to slightly take the piss.
I think for me, do you know what? I think we were talking about it off camera actually with some of the crews, that in a world now where feelings are more important than common sense, and the idea that your view on life and your background, your context is what's important, without taking into account that other people see things very differently, and actually that difference of opinion is what makes the world go round, and that it's not a challenge to your ego. It's not I'm going to burn your house down. It's I don't agree with you, but we can all move on. And I found since being a sportsman that a lot of the decisions I made when I was a player, the articles are written, the people I rubbed up the wrong way, or, you know, I was one of the first people to have a website, I was one of the first people with the social media. It didn't
Brand Haskell.
It didn't conform to the belief that you should have a sports people. Now I look at my career post rugby, and all the same guys are scrabbling for jobs, are doing stuff they hate, are not happy, or either bankrupt, and it's kind of,
Well, it doesn't look after you as a sport when you're playing it or afterwards.
no, it's not at all. Not at all. And the thing is, you know, I think I was actually saying that to someone yesterday. I think we spent about 70 grand on operations, medical treatment, physios, injections, prescriptions to keep my body functioning, and to keep it going. So you have to keep earning. And I think, you know, yes, you don't want to be bigger than the game, and rugby's a beautiful team sport, which actually really encourages that, because you can't have the likes of a Messi and Ronaldo or these guys, because the game doesn't lend itself there. You can have a Johnny Wilson, Dan Carter, but they still...
Or a Serge Blanca.
A Serge Blanca, yes, yeah, exactly. You know, and you know, all the kind of guys that could have an influence, or Joe Nyman, you know, the probably the greatest influence ever had on rugby. Dupont now...
Well, you were kind of part of that change in a sense, because we actually grew up quite close to each other. You grew up in Windsor, and I was just across the river in Taplow, and you know, you were privately educated. You went to great schools. I mean, a very good rugby school.
Yeah.
But you were part of that crop when sort of rugby changed.
Yes.
In other words, the players just became massive.
Yes, professional. Yeah, it's what it was. It was very interesting. When I first started playing, I went into Wasps. It was my club, and I actually never wanted to be a rugby player. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to try with JCB, or be in the SS really. And my dad said the amount of money he spent, wasted on my education, I wasn't allowed to try to do it.
But that really comes across in the book, is that who you are and how you're perceived is very, very different. And you know, the press have loved to kick you. They've been fascinated by your marriage.
Yeah, of course.
They continue, despite the fact that you're not married, to be fascinated as to how you and Chloe now live and co-parent.
And the co-parenting it's really interesting, because you know, Chloe is an amazing woman, extremely talented. She's made me a much better person being with her. Now we separate, you know, you separate essentially because you want to make sure that your daughter has the best possible life. And I think when you have a child, you have a responsibility, and everything, your other wishes go out the window. And do you know what? The ability for us to co-parent and do stuff is so important. And you know, Chloe's, I think, more vocal about things, because she's much more, she wears her heart on her sleeve. I'm a much more kind of bit reserved about that kind of stuff, because I think she's amazing. She's incredible.
Well, that's something nobody would think about you. Quite reserved.
Quite reserved.
James, he's quite reserved.
Really awful. But I think you've got to also understand as well, in social media now, nothing dies. You know, when we were younger, you know, they say, you know, today papers is tomorrow's paper. That doesn't exist
Not anymore.
And that's why these young kids on social media and all this posting and all this kind of outbursts, it's fine now, because that's what you believed to be right. I mean, especially as a student, say you're very ardently political, and when you get a job in 10 years late, you know,
everybody gets tripped up by it. Now, you know, there are people being prosecuted for stuff that they said, you know, 15 years ago.
So when my daughter's older, I want her to look and go, because she'll ask, she'll go, you know, why did you separate? So listen, I still love, I love Chloe. You know, we love you, and this is what happened. But
was it a matter of better to be the child of a broken home rather than live in a broken home?
Yeah, do you know, also, I think I don't even think it was I would use the word broken. I just think it was one of those occasions where as you grow in relationships, marriage is a really interesting thing because lots of people change, elements change, careers change, and you kind of, the confines of it mean that everything else grows, but it doesn't grow.
But the other thing that a lot of people don't talk about, and they feel like they shouldn't, is how much your relationship changes when a child enters. And that puts an enormous strain on any relationship.
Of course, and I think that's why it's interesting when and we never did that. We were very considered actually, because we always looked at ourselves and were like, look, there's no, look, if you're lucky enough to have children, you should never take that for granted, but there's a better time to have it. It's not a perfect time, it's not the right time, but there is a better time. Financially stable, sensible relationship, you're working on it and stuff. And we'd actually always worked on a relationship. We just got to the point where we were like, listen, we want to make sure that our daughter has the best possible life. And it's just,
because both of you had great
so
together.
my parents stood together, and also that was the hardest thing for me. The divorce rate is 52% and climbing.
But the other interesting fact is that 80% of people who get divorced, if you ask them 5 years later, was it the right thing to do, would say no.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's a really interesting fact.
But I think as well, that's based.
So you two might end up back together.
Well, you could do, yeah.
I mean, who knows?
Who knows? But I think as well, when you separate, sometimes there's outward influences or bleak as glass is green. And ours was literally the situation is like we were better together. Now we're better apart, but we're great parents, a great team. And as I said, there was no third party. There's none of those factors involved. It was a case of, look, almost, I know you can't put emotion down to business deal, but you were like, this worked, this was amazing, this was a great enterprise, but at this point in time, we need to go separate ways, but we've still got something that we have to look after, and we do it really well. And as I said, Chloe, I learn stuff from her every day. She's incredibly beautiful, incredibly talented, incredibly good mum, and our life dynamic works really well. She supports me in my career. But yeah, look, the newspapers are interesting because particularly Middle England, because we did this documentary. Well, she did this documentary that I was sort of a bit part of, but ended up becoming part of the story.
Where it was difficult though, or I think was an interesting period, was you were doing one of those kind of warts and all family documentaries at the time of the announcement, and your in-laws I had the pleasure of working with in the 90s, and and they're lovely people, but I mean, Richard is a unique individual in that way, and all of that's going on, and you're kind of like.
But the interesting thing, again, I think it's the interesting thing, but the thing about that was I was never meant to be in it. It wasn't. I never got paid to do it. I never got a remuneration for it. It was kind of something that Chloe got asked to do. And then I sort of got halfway through, I see there's been the narrative's being built here about being absentee or not being around or travelling or choosing music, and it just wasn't true. I was, and have been, from sort of the third night that Bodie came home, done the night feeds, been there, I've taken a holiday on my own, I'm most hands-on, I do everything. There's no pink jobs, blue jobs, I'm onto everything. And I was always there.
Just some pink fingernails.
Pink fingernails, yeah. And I was doing my kind of all the parenting stuff, but I was away during that period of time. I ended up having 12 trips because I was working DJ. But when I came
earning money.
But when I came back, I was
not just having. I mean, obviously having fun.
Yeah, of course. If I've combined a job that's great fun. It's kind of one of life's goals. So you can't really hate me for going, I get to DJ, there's beautiful people around, it's sort of my job. We're putting an image out on social media, but that's not reality. And I did the show, and at the end of it, it suddenly dawned on me. Then we had that statement that actually this is sort of a perfect storm of and I was basically, I'd lost out on it with the image of it. But again, people who believe it or see it contextually, it sort of doesn't really matter.
But do you think, I suppose my question to you is, what have you learned from that period? Because it is that thing of, we've met each other a number of times, and, you're not who you are in the public eye, but you keep getting presented. Are you your own worst enemy, basically?
Okay, so that's 100%, and I always ask people advice that I respect to give an honest opinion. And also, I say, 100% my own worst enemy. Like I can't help myself. Really,
well, that comes across in the book, because when the others are talking about you, it's like, Haskell will come in and more things have happened to him on his journey from home into where we do the podcast than most people have happened in a year.
Yeah, and do you know what is? So the thing from the show was, what I learned from that is I should have got paid. Is what I would have done. The second thing is that would I have stepped in and gone, listen, I can see the way you're shaking this narrative. This is going to backfire, and this is not meant to be like this. This is meant to be a fun thing.
But did you two know that you were kind of coming to a close on stuff whilst you were filming it? That was the thing that I think a lot of people were like, why did they do this show if they were splitting up?
I think it was taught, because obviously when it's filmed and when it comes out, it's a very different time scale, and it takes months to do that. So where we were at with that relationship, where we were there, I think it was post that, then it started to fall apart. But the show was going to come out after we decided to separate. So when we were doing it, we were fine. When we were post that period of time, we came upon and listen, this isn't where we can continue. And then 4 months after that, it comes out. So then the timescales look weird, and then it looks like a publicity stunt. People thought we were faking it. I was like, I live in a new house. It's a hell of a fucking thing to fake.
But I tell you, it's almost like I feel for you two, because there's still all that speculation. Why did it happen to you? It's almost like the two of you need to just sit down and go, this is why we split up. Can we stop talking about it?
I think to be honest with you, we sort of have done that really. My things, we split up because we didn't get on anymore. And that's it. That's the end of it. There's no like nefarious thing. Though we use, look, the out of context language and the stuff that media write and the stuff that's like scary. That's her use of language. Chloe is very overtly honest about things like that. The honest answer, we just didn't get on, so we separated. There's no like malicious enough to it. The problem is,
perfectly normal end to a relationship.
It's like you fall out with people, you fall out consistently with someone, and then you go, actually, a friend you wouldn't keep, a business deal you wouldn't keep losing money, a relationship that's not sustainable. Because
and what environment are we bringing our child up in?
That's what I mean. And then you go, what's the priority? Do I want her to see a wholesome life? And so now you have a distilled thing of family life where we're able to do things together, we spend time together, our daughter has the best possible life, and then ultimately we are able to then go or live our separate lives and give us the best versions for our daughter. And that's the simplicity. Were we giving the best life to our daughter? Well, we were trying, but obviously if you're not getting on with someone, that happens. Now we do, and that's the point. And when it gets too much, you go off into your own life. And I think for me, that's all that happened. When you do leave silence, people like to fill the void. But the speculation kind of, again, I wouldn't notice because Chloe's because of her family, are much more tabloid fodder. No one asked me, you're the first person that comes to interview me. No one's coming to me and like, I'm not as interesting as Chloe is. So it's,
Well, I mean, I think you are, but I think it's that, like you say, you choose to have a different kind of dialogue about it. But I just, it's almost like, all right, do we just clear the decks here? We literally sit, on social media or wherever and do.
I think once you start doing that, you'll never feed the beast. And again, that I think it's an idea because what happens is you'll see it. Someone will say something about your newspaper, it'll be front page. You'll go and defend it, you'll get page 8. The newspaper then retracts, get apology, is page 25. Yeah. That horse is bolted now. And actually people who want to believe what they believe about a relationship are already going to believe it. I'll never get to all of them because if you could grab everyone's got a bad opinion and actually tap into them. So it's just a hide into nothing. It sort of doesn't matter.
I mean, I sort of count myself lucky because all of that period where I was appearing in newspapers for the wrong reasons.
I don't know anything about it.
Which was before kind of everything in terms of social media, mobile phones, everyone having a camera there. I was lucky.
You've always alluded to something. I don't know. I've got no concept.
No, I mean, I got splashed across the front page of the Sun. News of the world with a full centre page spread, the boy who grew up in the shadow of fame, all that kind of thing. But the lovely thing is, there is literally nothing. You can't, you would have to go to some archive and dig it out and look at it. And it really was a bad picture. But anyway, that whole, I count myself lucky because as we were saying right at the beginning, it's like, it can just you just have to go, James Haskell, separation, and it just forever.
But when Bodhi's old enough and social media and everything's moved on, she can have access to all of that. And
we'll all be back using abacuses.
Yes. If the world falls apart.
And carrier pigeons.
Yes. Well, that would I think regression on that front would be quite good because instead of bringing the world closer, it's actually provide more fake information, cause more mental health issues, and push us further apart because there's no context, unfortunately. But I think the most important thing is when Bodhi Googles it, she will look at it and go, these guys just try to be the best parents, and that's fine. I would never.
Well, it's like anybody.
She's amazing.
Yeah, but it's like anybody who kind of, is having difficulties in the marriage. I mean, my wife and I have been together 25 years, and as I always say, we've been divorced at least twice. It's just nobody left. She's looked at me and gone, "Oh, good God, what am I doing with this idiot?" And that thing of if you are going to separate, it's like, all right, so you need to go, I believe you need to go and talk to somebody, right? And you work out either how to stay together or separate with dignity.
Yes. And that's what we tried to do. Yeah. And I think, look, I did therapy from 17 to last week. I did it as a tool to help me develop as a person, and I still do it now. And I believe brain's the most powerful tool. Same thing in a relationship. We didn't just one night go, we're not together. We did therapy, we did everything we could do. We looked at it, we worked on ourselves as individuals, and we came to the conclusion that for the best of our daughter, that was the best decision. People online say, you should stay together for the children. I'm like, no. That's far.
That thing of better to come from a broken home than live in one is really
100%,
true.
100%. And she has, honestly, Bodhi has the best life, and I just want to continue that. And you're going to have challenges, new partners, new people, new things, new changes that you have to come together. And actually, we're probably more of a team now than we've ever been, apart from the early days, because we've got something that is more precious than us. And I would do everything in my power to make sure Bodhi has the best life. And so, same thing with Chloe. Sure. Because also, I think people forget, it's not me against her. She's such an amazing woman that as long as she feels safe and secure and knows that I'm there to support her, she'll be the best possible mum, and vice versa for me as a dad.
Yeah, well, I think it is that thing also of, you keep your side of the street clean, and then everybody else comes along for the ride.
And the biggest lesson I've learned throughout my life is also worry about yourself, like you said, your side of the street. How dare you look at other people? You're never going to change anyone else. You don't have the power or the qualifications or the
powerless over people, places and things.
Just do you and do it well. And by being better and changing yourself and looking after yourself, and from mental side, physical side, to self-development side, to knowing that you're not the perfect article, putting your ego in check when people tell you that you're, like you said to me earlier, are you your own fault? Yeah, I can say that. I don't go around going, I can't believe that's true.
But that thing of, it's like that, what was that book that sold millions? The Secret.
Yes, The Secret, yeah.
And it basically comes down to awareness.
Yes, and vision,
Are you aware of what's going on around you, who you are, what makes you tick, and have you made the mistake of thinking you're the finished article?
Yeah, and I think the last thing is, do you understand that the way that your mind thinks about itself and the way you talk about yourself is like it's happened? The brain can't tell what it has or hasn't. So if you're constantly negative, talk about negative things, visualize negative things, your life will end up that way. If you change your thinking and visualize what you want to happen, and you correct yourself and you talk about yourself in the right way, you talk to others and you attract positive people.
Never talk about yourself in the third person, though. No. Because then you need psychiatric help.
I used a teammate that used to talk about himself in the third person. They'd be like, I won't say his name, does so-and-so need a holiday? So-and-so might. I was like, you talk about yourself.
Well, if he turns up, we'll ask him, because at the moment there's a lunatic.
Yeah, you actually, I think you probably met him as well. He's a big, large life character, but he did describe himself in the third person multiple times, and we caught people doing it. I was like, sorry, did you talk about yourself in the third person? Like, you really disappeared up your own arse?
No, but I mean, that can be part of what we always jokingly in my family referred to as famous person disease, where for a period of about 5 years, nobody's turned around and gone, what are you talking about? They just sit there and they're on transmit.
Well, you'd see it more than anything, the circles you mix in, just those people who are so lost down the rabbit hole, they've lost all perspective, all reality, and all put the image out there of what they're actually like when we know they're completely different. And that's what I find really hard. I dipped in and out of it, because we met through Jimmy Carr, and I dip into these worlds. You meet these fantastic people, and some of them, like you were we got on like a house on fire. We started talking at the bar. Instantly had a real.
Well, you were lost. I showed you where to go. There was this very large man going, where the hell do I go? It's like, come with me.
Well, we had a really good synergy, and you go, that person's the same person I meet every time I meet you. I find it very difficult to meet people that blow hot and cold, whereas I might not be what everybody wants, but I'm always that same person. You're never going to get me on a bad day. You're never going to walk past and ignore you.
No, but you're very warts and all.
Yeah.
And you might sort of go occasionally, and again, your compatriots in the book talk about could do with a little bit of self-editing sometimes.
The truth is, if I'm sitting at a table with 10 people and 9 people are laughing, 1 person's crying, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with those. Yes. I'd rather say.
But the interesting thing is, a lot of people will walk into a room, and especially if they're suffering from a chronic case of famous person disease, 99 of, there's 100 people in the room, 99 will pat them on the back, and one goes, and they leave remembering that person.
Of course.
And that's no way to live, and therefore you have to keep feeding it, and as we've discussed about another thing, there is no amount of fame that can cure that.
No, never, because you're never happy, you're never fulfilled, your cup's always half empty, and you're always going to dwell on that. And it breeds anxiety, it breeds depression, because you will never live up to it. When actually, I always go online. We did a thing where we interviewed the royal family for the podcast, and
that was it. That was quite interesting, allowing you three
it was
into one of the royal household.
Princess Anne was she was amazing. There's a story we talked about in the book, but it basically what happened is Tyndall had obviously preempted them with a bit of information to give a bit of chat.
I'm bringing 2 very strange men.
Yeah, exactly. We call Tins. They call him Solsy around the palace, because the only thing you see hanging out the arse of one of the royals is the soles of his feet, because he's absolutely brown or so upset. And the Solsy's basically told them that we were going on this boat cruise, and that I was going to be DJing out there. So Prince of Wales says, Haskell, I hear you're going on a cruise ship. What are you going to be? Don't tell me, the anchor. And I said, well, it sounds something like an anchor. It's spelled differently. And Princess Anne just turned around and goes, yes, I can see that. Right. And everyone just erupted in laughter. You're like, you've just been buried by the Princess Royal.
Yep.
Like, obviously they edited it out, but they were so personal, they're so charming, and that kind of amazing moment. But the story was we got 1 million hits in sort of 4 hours. We had 3,000 comments and 300 were negative. But then you look at it as an analogy, you go, 1 million people watched it, 3,000 people, everyone's going to be asked to respond, because most normal people don't respond, and 200 of them are negative. Now we dwell on those 200, or we're concerned with 200. When you look at the metrics, it's completely irrelevant.
The drop in the
those 200, don't worry about it. No one gives. And I think that's what you've got to kind of get into mentality.
But we do tend to now as a society, I think, as a result of social media, focus on that grain of sand on the beach.
We give them power.
And it's like, hold on, these are such a small minority of people. I think it was best summed up when the whole Lineker thing blew up. And I think it was a journalist in The Guardian or something wrote, do you know who's upset about what Gary Lineker said? The people who want you to hear what they have to say. And that's the thing, but the social media gives people a platform and somewhere to shout and have an opinion and all that kind of thing that they would never share with you face to face. It's mainly because you're 6'3" and 120 kilos, and you have been a competitor from a very early age, and you like a challenge.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's obvious.
Yes.
From it's like the idea that you would go from rugby to MMA. I mean, for your sake, I'm so glad you had to have the spinal surgery and didn't do that, because like rugby didn't do enough to your face already.
This is the best I've ever looked. We talked about a hair transplant.
Yes, no, I mean, but stick your head down. Let's have a look. They've done a good job.
Mate, that's good, isn't it? Honestly.
Good. How long ago was that?
2 months.
2 months.
It's going, mate. It's all right, honestly.
I mean, because you were starting to get a bit of a chrome dome, weren't you?
Right. I was literally, the quarterbacks had snapped back a bit over there, and it's going a bit thin on top.
A bit of a rich tea biscuit at the back.
No, do you know what? I was actually right with that. It was a bit thinny, but it wasn't too bad.
Well, no, because you're tall, so nobody can see.
Nobody could see. But then there was bits where I'd see it with DJ, I'd have my headphones on, and it would kind of put it into perspective. And I remember going to see Dr. Reddy's name was at Restore Team. Unbelievable. And he walked in and went, I'm going to need 2 days on this. And I went, come on, mate, it's not that bad. And he went, he did lots of sharp intakes of breath and looking at it. I was like, oh, for Christ's sake. But they did. I had 3 Indian guys working on me for 8 hours. Then they did the hair transplant. I had one
part of the process.
So I had one day, and they were unbelievable. So 8 hours one day, 8 hours the next day. Didn't have any swelling. I had pain on the second day from the consistent anaesthetic injections. Mate, it was a game changer. I love it now. And also, I didn't realise when you have short hair in perspective, it actually suits me, so I'm all right.
But the whole thing about it is no man really wants to be bald.
No.
You're lucky if you look good bald.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a good head shape, so you'd be fine bald, but at the end of the day, you'd rather have hair.
Yeah, of course. And I think it's a big issue that men, a lot of men don't talk about it. And what I found really interesting was that women never said anything. My ex-slave didn't care. More men gave me shit about my hair than anybody else. And we're just like programmed.
But it's that same thing. Men worry about hair. The two things men worry about with other men is their hair
The size of penis.
and their penis.
Yes.
Right? And then women worry about a whole range of other things that men are going, well, have you had balls actually?
I didn't even notice that you'd done that, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't go out with that and that. You're like, what? I didn't even know you had.
Oh, I put on so much weight.
Have you? Yeah, I know. But I did find it actually, speaking about it, talking about it, was kind of quite empowering with other people because they'll go, look, if you could do it. I was like, listen, guys, I just don't care. I go out there. It's important to say I've had it done.
But I mean, I'm 55 next birthday, right? I, for the last 2 years, have taken finasteride every single day because I don't want it to fall out. It started to go a bit there, and I thought, well, what do I do? I mean, do I have a transplant and fill it back in? I'm going to end up on finasteride anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, do you take it now?
I take the docs now because finasteride actually, I got a lump. Well, I got a lump in my nipple.
This is the book of the podcast, which, I mean, and live. Taking it live, doing that kind of thing, really, because if you think about it now, when you started in 2020, podcasts were big, and some people were doing podcasts. Now, everybody is doing a podcast.
But do you know what's really interesting about it?
Even me.
Yes. But do you know what the interesting thing about the podcast tab is? I see it a lot with people in podcasts. They go, you got another podcast, but you never tell people you can't write another book. And it's actually, there's a podcast now for everything. And I think the reason they're so interesting is people now want longer format. People want to look behind the curtain. The biggest thing and selling thing on Netflix at the moment, all these other things, is documentaries. It's not just playing the sport. They want to look behind it. If you look at Home of the Furies, they engage with
Formula One revolutionised everything.
But look at Home of the Furies. They got them because they've got the family and kids involved. That then gets the female demographic because females don't traditionally watch sport.
But what it does really successfully, the podcast and the book, is what we were talking about. Is kind of change the opinion of the kind of people who play rugby. Certainly at the level that you play it, it's like it's not a rugger bugger ball.
No.
You are a high-level professional athlete. I mean, I'm slightly reminded, the weird thing is, as when I knew you were coming on and I was reading this and I was, reading the research on you, at the same time, I was watching that SAS Rogue Hero.
It's great, isn't it?
And that guy, Paddy Mays.
Yeah.
Have you read up on him?
No.
He's a raving lunatic, but he was a great rugby player. So he was capped for Ireland and for the Lions.
Oh, really?
But when he was on tour, his way of relaxing was to smash up hotel rooms and go and get drunk and fight dockers.
I like it.
So, but he was intelligent and fine. He was, he loved poetry. He trained solicitor. But also lunatic killer, and that kind of strange thing. And you do see that a lot in, it was always that surprise when, you're looking at a bloke on a rugby field, he's got his head tanked up, he's like, he's a really successful solicitor.
But what's interesting about is that, like, we had stop saying, Andy Sheridan's a great example of somebody that was a Lions prop, an England prop, was a wine sommelier, and has a country folk album out on iTunes. And the guy looks like we could tear you in half, and was one of the greatest trainers. That's a complete juxtaposition. They say that Stuart Barnes.
Sorry, that's your timer going up again.
And there's Stuart Barnes. There's another one who used to read poetry and stuff and sit down. We like people to conform to our beliefs of what they look like, and I think.
If a football player did that, he'd be called all sorts of names and be ostracised from the change.
But that's because it's the nation sport, and look. If you meet the average person in the street, their expectations, life goals, and often intelligence levels. The last book I wrote before this one's called Approach the Caution. Approach about caution, and the the regular intelligence level or the average is at 100. So that's the average. So a lot of people aren't that intelligent, don't read, aren't interested in certain aspects. Yet we're all meant to go together and believe the same things and judge people the same. And you see footballers, the reason there's still a massive issue with kind of sexuality and racism and stuff in that sport is because that's what the common man is brought up with. Their prejudices are inherited. You don't learn to be racist, you don't learn to be homophobic, you're taught that. And you also taught to be narrow-minded. And I think it comes down to parenting and education, but there isn't that. So you've got to understand where it comes from. When you're a higher intelligence level, higher expectations, you hold yourself to a higher account. And you should try to drag everyone with you, but unfortunately it's a bit of a high into nothing, really.
But that's what I love about this, is with the three characters that you have, it's intelligent, it's thoughtful, it's knowledgeable, and it's also occasionally deeply puerile.
So it's like you eagerly, the mum was done. Yeah, of course.
But in the book, you laugh, you cry. We've had tears of emotion. We've had childbirth, we've had separation, we've had retirement. We've had,
Quite a lot of Guinness.
Quite a lot of Guinness in there. Now gin, with our black eye gin. But we had one of the things with the podcast, which was quite interesting, was the profound effect it had on the male listeners in terms of 3 perceived alpha males. Alex is definitely a beta male, but 2 alpha males and 1 beta male.
Or Alex.
But you need betas in life. You need those shades of grey. Because
Before he walked into a room with you two, I bet he didn't see himself as a beta male.
He literally said in his group of friends he's an alpha male, and we always said what state does his friends have to be in? We all imagine like they're like Lord Byron, big open shirts, foppish people who saw a bluebell and had to lie down for a week because they were so overcome with emotion, and they read a book and they couldn't stop talking about it in book club. Those are the kind of people, big open shirts, ruchade cups. Yeah. So yeah, I think with the profound effect we had on the kind of listeners was that talking about mental health, was getting people through hard times. But was equally what was interesting about it was we had a lot of female listeners who came on and said, listen, we came to listen to this. We know nothing about rugby. We've listened to every episode. We still know nothing about rugby. And that was the perfect goal, because we didn't want to talk about the minutiae of the sport. We wanted to talk about the characters and behind the curtain.
Now, we have got to the point of proceedings where I'm going to have to blindfold you, which I would imagine not your first.
It's not my first rodeo, Mark. As long as you're gentle. The safe word for today will be coconut.
Okay, there we go. So get on the blindfold, and I'm going to bring in
it really is. It really is.
Yeah, no. It's a proper blindfold.
Very professional.
Now, I'm going to feed you.
It's taking me back to choir practice.
Yep. So here's the first one.
You're going to feed me?
Yeah. Open wide. Here's the first one. There we go. Chomp down on that. Tell us what you're tasting, what your flavours, what your textures are. Is it nice?
Nice. It's almost got a very Indian vibe to it.
Mm-hmm. You're getting the spice coming through?
Spice coming through in the back of the throat. There's a bit of rice.
Did you get the crunch bit?
Yeah, I did. But it's,
what do you think that is?
I don't know, actually. It's got rice in it. It feels like a lamb or a meat.
Yep. Well, look, I mean, take the blindfold off. It's based on your favourite childhood memory, which is your first ever Indian.
Yeah, it was,
So it's the poppadoms. We've got a little chicken jalfrezi and a bit of rice there for you.
That's why it's spicy. I knew it. So it was Indian straight away. It's very nice.
Yeah. I thought it was actually, we've gone chicken though.
Chicken.
I've gone chicken jalfrezi.
I've just eaten a margarita, so that's very nice. It's really nice.
So we like that. So you would have the second spoon.
100%. Yeah, you can have it.
Yeah, it's yours. It's yours. There we go.
I'll tell you why the crunch isn't there, because the poppadom absorbs some of the
it's been under there quite a while. We've been talking for a while. I mean, don't let the people at home know that was stone cold when you ate it.
Yeah.
As will the next spoon.
Oh, no.
But we're not going to talk about that. No, we're not going to talk about that. What we are going to talk about is what's next.
For me, so I've got a lot of music coming out with on different record labels. So my desire to pursue my career as a DJ and go and DJ around the world, I do that already, but it's going to happen to a more sort of higher level. I want to play in the or will play in kind of the festivals. I think I'm rebranding my music under Haskell. So it's going to be a certain look, certain type, a certain vibe, certain channels. It's going to have that music. It's going to separate. And actually, for me personally, one of the things I'm really interested, I've talked about with you today, is about kind of mindset, performance, social beliefs, whatever. I believe there's a lot of lost men out there who don't really know.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I think you've got false idols like Andrew Tate, who who some of the messaging I don't disagree with, or I don't disagree with, but all the stuff around women and the attitude, the possessions, and the misogyny, and all that kind of stuff is completely wrong. I believe there's somebody out there to talk about looking after yourself, health, training, parenting, be a good person, having struggles, and I believe that I'll do much more on that.
I would happily join you on that journey.
I think so.
But what I'm going to do first is blindfold you again.
Okay, I like that. Should I be aroused?
No, no. I mean, you can be if you
Sorry,
want, but it's
I just didn't know if that was part of the...
right. Here is your second spoon, my friend. It's coming in now.
No spooning, loose forking.
Yes, exactly. I stick to spooning.
All right.
Right. Again, I will be feeding you. But here we go. Now, tell me about flavours. Tell me about textures. Is it nice?
It is nice.
Yeah.
It's got mushroom in it,
Yeah. Which you said you hate.
but it's really nice.
Yeah. Because what
It's
else?
really well
What
cooked.
else has it got in it that you said you loved?
Can't...
Having trouble with the protein? Recognising the protein?
Yeah, but it's so good because I could tell the mushroom. It's like truffle
Well,
flavour.
what's your ultimate protein?
Steak.
Yeah.
Red
What
meat.
kind of steak though?
Wagyu. It's wagyu with like almost like a Japanese
Go on,
one.
take it off, take it off. So what you've got there is a Wagyu steak and mushroom stroganoff with dill.
It tastes amazing.
Yeah, you see, no such thing as a bad ingredient. Now that you can see it, can you taste the dill more?
Yeah.
But is it horrible?
No.
Exactly. But that's the thing, it's about balance. You know, if somebody goes and sticks a whole lump of dill in your mouth, I'm the same as you. I don't like an overt amount of dill, but if the right amount is in, the balance is there, it should be
But
right.
the steak's so well done and the mushroom's cooked to perfection that even though it's cold, it all works.
No, it's not cold,
Sorry,
James.
it's not cold,
It's piping hot. It's just come out of the kitchen.
That was amazing. I also, but these, again, when I saw it the second time, you go, oh, it's mushroom. That's amazing. That was really, really nice. And it tastes, all the things that I liked about mushrooms, that I told you before, that I hated, like the ones you just cooked. I hated the Japanese ones or truffle stuff, I was fine.
Yeah.
But that had all the truffle flavour, all the kind of texture, all the moistness with the Wagyu. It was really cool.
Excellent. So we have changed your mind
Yes.
about dill and mushrooms.
Yes.
Spooning wins. You'll always be a bit of a winner, won't you? Because you won't stop competing.
No, well, as seen, I didn't question anything. I just went, yeah, I'll do that, and that is why, you know, they said with that old fools rush in where angels fear to tread. I'm in the door before the angels have got out of bed.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's a great book.
Thank you.
The Good, the Bad and the Rugby. It is a behind-the-scenes look at James's very successful podcast. Out to buy now.
Yeah.
So go and buy it.
It's audiobook as well, read by all three of us. So if you'd like my dulcet tones, you didn't find them too off-putting, you can listen to us.
But Alex has got a nicer voice.
Alex has got a great voice. Yeah, great voice. Charming, like almost like it's like poured silk over.
And then you've got Mike.
And you got Mike. Mike's breathing. Mike, we call Mike Breath Vader because he's had his nose. He was the only person I know that could smell around corners. Then some of the royal cash came in, or the taxpayers' money, as you want to call it, and he got his nose fixed up. But it's sort of aesthetically, it's like putting French windows on a counter house. It's still a counter
That's
house.
probably because Zara couldn't stand sleeping
Well,
because the sleep apnea must have been terrible.
Yeah, but
with that
it still
nose.
doesn't work. So my point is, like, you put mock Tudor Flanning on a towel, it's still a top. That the nose, it doesn't work because you sit next to him and say, you're like, oh my God. Honestly, the biggest complaint we have is don't let the lads eat because it's like truffle pigs, and don't let and turn Mike's mic down because you can hear him day snoring.
Well, it's still an enjoyable
Thank you.
It's a very enjoyable book. It's out to buy now.
Can I take this home for research
Yes,
purposes?
that's yours. We'll guide you out the door wearing that. Well, that is all for this week. Massive thank you to James for taking part and being a true competitor. That is all. Be joined again next week by another very special guest, and we will be challenging what they think they love and what they think they hate. This podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts from and on YouTube. And if you want to see what we're doing in between, search us out on social media by looking for Spooning with Mark Wogan. Until next week, stay beautiful.